Welcome in to yet another week of the 2023 Fantasy Baseball Waiver Wire picks. I'm Jason Beckner. You can find me on Twitter at JRBex. Joined like always with JP. You can find him on Twitter at Dapscout. Again, if you're not familiar with these videos, every week we come out with about 5 or 6 guys that are available on your waiver wire. You can head on over to fantasysixpack.net. You can get an accompanying article. It's going to have about 20 plus names that can help you in your league. And I would also be remiss if I didn't mention, you also have in that article, we have a Dapscout pick of the week. Or Dap pick of the week.
Wow. You remembered. I'm touched.
Yeah. Dap kind of throws out one of his guys that you might be able to get maybe in some deeper leagues or just a guy that maybe under the radar. I look for that in that article. And you can get access to that article, but you're going to need to become a member to get that access. You can get you can do that by going to fantasysixpack.net/plans. Like I said, to sign up there, you get access to not only the waiver wire channel, but you're going to get access to the most accurate fantasy baseball rankings according to Fantasy Pros. You get content like DFS, betting projections, customized league advice via Discord on Fantasy Six Pack. Again, sign up for membership today at fantasysixpack.net/plans. Other than that, we can jump right into some of the guys that we're going to talk about picking up off the waiver wire this week. Go ahead and first with the first guy here. It's going to be MJ Melendez, the catcher for the Kansas City Royals. He is catcher eligibility. However, he's been doing a lot of DHing and playing outfield. But hey, as long as he's eligible to catcher, we're going to put him there.
Right.
Again, he's owned in about 64% of most leagues. So, just make sure you just double check your waiver to see if he's available, because he started off really slow, but he's getting really hot over the last 14 days. 2 home runs, 8 runs, 7 RBIs. This is a guy that he's shown in the past that he used to be one of the top prospects in the Kansas City Royals organization. So he's definitely got the skill set. Again, like if he's available in your league, go ahead and definitely grab him. Especially, I doubt he's available in a 2-catcher league, but single catcher league, absolutely pick him up.
And more importantly, see if you can jump on somebody who's maybe not paying attention as much, maybe has 2 catchers or 3, and doesn't realize his value's really kind of increased here in the last 10 games. Look, this is always the risk with MJ, right? He was kind of a low average, an OBP is a different story, but low average, high strikeout percentage guy, but he was going to be hitting enough. The hope was he was going to hit enough, especially hit it for enough power, that it wouldn't really matter. And that first part of the season, he showed that kind of that weakness, right? It was almost a 36% K rate, and only with 1 home run. That's not, you can kind of forgive some things in the stats if you're getting power in other areas, kind of like a Gallo, but obviously this is not Gallo yet. Right. But the last 10 games, when 5 RBIs, he's really brought that K rate down to 26%, and batting average is all the way up at 306. Again, OBP is up at 342. But so we're seeing that increase that we were expecting. You're going to hear it all the time. Sportscasters love to say it. When the weather heats up, we see a lot of hitters heat up as well. And I think Kansas City, if you have ever been there in the wintertime, or in April especially, it's cold. So I think MJ is really going to be heating up here in the month of May, and definitely somebody you want to trade for. If he's in your waivers, I want to join your league. But if not, definitely trade for him right away.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's go ahead and jump over to our next guy. It's going to be a pitcher here. We're going to be talking about JP France, starting pitcher for the Houston Astros. What do you know? Another week, another top pitching prospect getting the call up. This time, it's Houston Astros, JP France. He had a good debut last time out, 5 innings, no runs, 3 hits on 5 Ks, only 1 walk. He's got a 6 stash. The mustachio power just brings out, the best in pitchers. But in that start, he had a 33% CSW. He relies heavily on a fastball curveball mix. He's always been a pretty good strikeout pitcher. He's got mid-90s velocity. He should have a spot at least for one more turn in this rotation. Again, right now it seems like starting pitching is just very, very volatile. And if you can find a guy on your waiver wire that's going to, help contribute to your team, you should actually be looking at JP France. What do you think, JP?
Yeah. So again, Astros, you hear me talk about the Astros, the Braves, those types of teams that when they call up a pitching prospect, you immediately think, well, this is probably a good pitching prospect without even looking at the stats. But then, of course, you go a little bit deeper with JP France and you see a strikeout pitcher, like you were saying. Before he even got called up, he'd already had in 19 innings, 26 Ks. I mean, this is somebody who's going to be striking some people out as well. Doesn't walk a ton of guys either. So far in Houston, he's only walked his 1.8 walks. But one of the things that I'm going to pull the curtain back here a little bit just to talk about what happens behind the scenes here, right? We had a little bit of a conversation, not us two, but we have a couple of people we have to talk about with, waiver selection. And one of the things was, should we take JP France? Because what if he sucks tonight? And his game got rained out or something else. And, either way, we were going to, and this wonderful man, Jason, we were still going to go with him because we believed in him that much. But It's always funny to hear kind of the stuff in the background, like, well, if he sucks, then we're going to look bad. Well, guess what? Baseball's a long season. And considering how many injuries you've had out there, more than likely you're going to be relying on a JP France in the world and things of that nature. JP France, high strikeouts, which is, of course, a stat either if you're doing a K per 9 lead or just a K counting league. You're going to probably get wins because the Astros are always hot or always around, and they're in an AL West league, which is just they're all over the place. And another thing that really kind of was a great indicator of future success here too, right? That batting averages of balls in play. It wasn't overly inflated. It's something that he can probably work with as well. Go out and grab some JP France. I love this pitcher, and I've picked him up in a bunch of leagues.
Yep, great call. Next thing we're talking about here is going to be Max Kepler, the outfielder for the Minnesota Twins. This could be one of those guys that's reviving his career somehow. Maybe going back to 2019 stats for right now, but he currently has a 235 ISO. He's got 6 home runs, 17 runs scored, 14 RBIs. Doesn't strike out a ton. He's not going to hit for a high average, but if you need a boost in some of those counting stats, the power stats, Max Kepler is definitely, especially in some of these 4 or 5 outfield leagues, he should not be available on your waiver wire. He's producing at a great rate for your fantasy team, so you should definitely be looking to pick him up. What do you think, JP?
Yeah. So, Max Kepler, the great thing about the theme almost of today's show, and they're going to hear this a bunch, is these prospects that are finally making good, right? And we saw that with Kalenic as well, right? We were hoping to see that 2 years ago or so. Max Kepler has always been able to, hit the ball hard, but problem is the contact. And also, of course, was able to stay in the lineup. One thing I think I want to call out for you here, and John Anderson always has a great Twitter follow. You should definitely follow him. He has a great stat up. Most hard hit balls in the majors. Yoshida with 32, Bo Bichette with 27, and guess who's tied with him? But Max Kepler with 27 as well. Hard hit balls mean, ball's going to go far or something good's typically going to happen, right? The two most important things, making contact and hitting the ball hard. And Max Kepler is doing that. The other key, part here is he's kind of keeping that K rate in check as well, right? Something that he hasn't always had a problem with, but it's something that we definitely always were watching here. If he can stay on the field, if he can keep that K rate in check, you have a winning combination. Max Kepler has always had the power, has always kind of had that that amazing hit tool. I have him in so many dynasty leagues. I've been waiting for this day to come, and I just hope it continues.
Yeah, again, like I said, just maybe getting back to those vintage 2018, 2019 numbers that we saw back in from him.
Definitely.
We're going to jump over to his teammate here, and it's going to be the starting pitcher, Louie Varland of the Minnesota Twins. Varland was off to a little bit of a mediocre start here in 2023, a little bit of just mixed bags. He's now made 3 starts so far. He's got a 4.32 ERA. 2 of his 3 starts, so they have been quality starts. He's been very good his last time out for the White Sox. But, he's going to give you good strikeout numbers. He's averaging a little bit over 10 Ks per 9. He's always been that strikeout capabilities. Again, he's giving you quality starts. If you're in a quality start league, you definitely need to be looking at Louie Varland. I think he's only going to keep getting better as the season goes on. What do you think about Louie Varland?
So the thing with Louie Varland that's kind of the paradox of Louie Varland, I guess you want to say, is if you watch his starts, it strikes you like, how does he have the ERA that he has? And really, you're talking about a guy with great ratios. Like you said, he's striking people out. His last start, he went 6 innings, 6 Ks. But it's the long ball that's been hurting him right now. I really think this ERA is not only, it's probably inflated by at least a run, and that should be coming down. Do not get scared off by seeing that, that 4 number in his ERA. This is a guy who's going to give you, those 6, 7K starts, has some really great stuff. And again, he's not going to walk a ton of people, and it's going to give you some great ratios. So please ignore that ERA for right now and trust that eye test, because he is a great pitcher. And in the last, I want to say 6 months, he's kind of forced me to really give him a lot more respect in the prospect circles. I honestly wasn't even paying attention that much, and I saw him from a couple different places that that I just had to start watching him. And so Louie Varland, definitely somebody who I've been watching for a while, and he's amazing now. So definitely check him out.
Yep, absolutely. Again, I feel like this year, just anywhere you can find good quality starting pitching,
Oh yeah, right
get
now.
it while you can, because it
Yep.
seems to be never ending search for a good starting pitcher on the waiver wire. So
Right.
any quality starting pitcher you can find on the waiver, it absolutely should be added. Go ahead and jump
Absolutely.
over now. Go ahead and jump over to the next guy here. We're going to talk about the Brandon Belt, first baseman for the Toronto Blue Jays. The ageless wonder just continues to produce. When he was out there, he spent his whole career in the Bay Area and San Francisco Giants. He was just one of those like undervalued players, right? He just never got. I
Right.
don't from in my circle of leagues. I feel like he just never got that. The respect that he deserved. But he's off to a little bit of a slow start, but he's really come together this past week. His last 7 games, he's slashing 389, 500, slugging 722. Now he's sitting in a way better lineup, right in the middle of that Toronto lineup, which is better
Right.
than the Giant lineup he's ever probably had in the past. Absolutely, and first baseman again is kind of one of those positions where it's kind of just a little bit of a not total wasteland, but when you get past those top tier guys, there's just not a lot of productivity in that first baseman position. So if Brandon Belt's out there on your waiver wire, I'd be looking to grab him. What do you think, JP?
Well, the thing is too, right? I mean, the lineup. I mean, look, San Francisco is great, but I mean, you got the Bichettes of the world, and that in front of you, you have a chance to get some good RBIs or get hit in. In the month of May, he's 8 for 20, which is a 400 average with 5 extra base hits. So this is a guy who I believe he's 97, 98 years old. So I mean, that's one of the oldest players to ever play the game. No, he's 35, but still, it's just amazing to me to kind of see him. I wouldn't say revitalized, but really kind of again hitting that kind of the next step of these older veterans that just show that extra gear. They get revitalized when they kind of change spots, as a Chapman is showing as well. So it just seems like everything's kind of working in Toronto with some of these older veterans, and definitely Brandon Belts has always shown that ability. The K rate is kind of scaring me right now. It's above 40%, but you can't argue with the other stats that you're seeing. That should come down. He's never really been above a 25% K. So that should definitely come down. He has a long enough career for us to definitely see that there is a natural tendency of where that number is going to go. So definitely, I'm excited about Brandon Belt. I can't say not to pick him up because the guy's been in the league for 37 years. 58 years. I apologize.
Yeah, no, good call. When I was looking at some of these stats, I did see that K rate, and it was definitely alarming. But again, like I said, it's one of those things that will come down. I don't envision him striking out almost 50% of the time. So
Right.
that's definitely something I kind of just looked over. But let's go ahead and jump over to our next guy here. It's going to be Francisco Alvarez, catcher for the New York Mets. He was, one of, if not the top pitching prospects coming into this season, and started off the season at AAA, and then kind of a little bit of a speculation why they didn't add him on the opening day roster, but he finally did get the call up. After hitting only 195 in his first 12 games, he now, since his raise his batting average up almost over 100 points. He's now hitting 320. He just had a 2 home run game the other day. Guy's built like a tank. It's going to give you a ton of power. The batting average is, I don't expect it to be over 300, obviously, but I think it's better than 195. Obviously, the catcher position, again, we talk about it every week, is just in a barren wasteland. So if for whatever reason, if Francisco Alvarez is on your lineup or in your waiver wire, you should absolutely be grabbing him because he can, that'll be producing those power numbers. What do you think?
Yeah, so I was so happy to see the U come off of Francisco Alvarez in my league because I could only put him on my utility spot until recently. If Bartolo Colon came back and as a catcher, that would be Francisco Alvarez's body, right? Yeah. And I'm not knocking it. I'm just saying, like, the guy, I would not want to do one of those like charge into home plate type things. On top of it, he's got a cannon for an arm. So we're looking at somebody who can play the defense, which is always something that you're worried about with a catcher, right? Is he an issue behind the plate? He throws to second, and it just got a howitzer. So you have all that, and on top of that, you've always kind of expected big power from Francisco Alvarez. With the Mets, I don't know what the Mets are doing right now. It seems like nothing's really kind of working there. seeing Alvarez kind of be able to still come above that is really great, especially from the catcher position, which is, requires so much work. Talk to so many veterans. I mean, he's dealing with veteran pitchers. I mean, Scherzers that are such high dollar amount, pitchers that have so much hardware on their shelves. For him to go out there and catch them, and he might not be calling the game, but he's out there and they trust him enough to, throw my sinker or throw my curve into the dirt. That's pretty impressive stuff, because if they didn't trust him, trust me, I'm sure those pitchers would be like, look, we're going to want somebody else back there. And again, never been a high K rate guy, which I love seeing, especially with these power guys. We're talking about 26, 25%. And he already has 3 home runs. I mean, wow. I've always been excited about Alvarez. I'm glad to see him kind of coming up. And in kind of these really terrible circumstances, I think once the Mets start clicking, and yes, they will click, there's too many veterans there, he's really going to take off, because he's going to have so much kind of like the good vibe sort of thing going on. I think right now that clubhouse is just a mess. And once they kind of figure out who the leaders are and kind of get everything else, then I really think that, Alvarez is going to rise up with the Mets as well.
Agreed. Let's go ahead and jump into our next guy here. It's going to be Spencer Torkelson, first baseman for the Detroit Tigers. Don't look now, but that former number 1 overall pick is finally starting to produce. That helium that he was given coming in again in that 2020 draft, and he was taken first overall out of Arizona State, I believe. He was just like, here comes the next. It's going to save the Tigers franchise, and it's been a little bit up and downhill for him. But he's now hit safely in 5 straight games. With 3 doubles and a home run. He's now up to 3 home runs total, 12 runs scored, 16 RBIs through his first 35 games played. He's going to get the at-bats. The availability is there. The plate appearances are there. It may start to click here for Spencer Torkelson. Do we finally see him live up to the hype that he was given?
So when you see a player not playing up to their potential, right, especially a younger player, you start wondering if, where the other areas are that are going to kind of fail. His defense this year has been phenomenal. And I think it's another key thing too, is that he's been able to kind of, keep some of these balls that looked errant, like they're going to end up in the stands in play. And that, playing a great, as they always say, right, you make a great play on defense, you're going to make a great play on offense. I think it all is kind of coming together. Torkelson was too darn good to be as bad as he was. Well, I wouldn't say, I can't hit a fastball to save my life. So bad for him. He wasn't going to be this bad for as long as he is. Again, look at these underlying stats. He always has hit the ball hard, and the only problem, of course, he plays in Detroit. I don't care what kind of modifications they've made to the stadium. It's still a place that, good hitters have to be great hitters to hit the ball out. But with Baez finally, coming back, because I thought he was going to be cut at one point. He was just playing so terrible. All these players kind of felt like we were talking about the Mets, right? Detroit's playing so much better right now, and Torkelson's right there with them. You have this young core with some veterans that were just doing terrible to begin with, especially in April. They are really coming on, and Torkelson's right at the top there.
Yeah, I think pick him up where available. I think it's in almost every league available. So grab him if you can. Let's go ahead and wrap up our this week's waiver wire pickups. Like again, if you want to get access to about another 20 to 50 names, including Dapscout's pick of the week, head on over to fantasysixpack.net/plans. You're going to get access to all that article, as well as Dapscout's pick of the week. And other than that, we will see you again next week for another waiver wire video.